Feel a little wheezy.
Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Josh.
And I'm Drew.
And this is our weekly pull list review where we review our pull list. This week we have Vision, Sheriff of Babylon, Doctor Strange, Prez, Daredevil, and Paper Girls.
That we do.
That we do. Let's just jump right in there. So first up we had the Vision, and in the Vision this week there's a little tuffle. The boy gets in at school and his wife's lying to him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We should mention that this is King, Walta, and Belair. King is the writer, Walta and Belair are doing the art here.
Cool.
With cover by Mike Del Mundo, by the way, one of our favorite artists from months
Weird
past.
World.
Weird World.
Yes.
Well, so yeah, this is just a direct continuation from what we were looking at last time. Mm-hmm. We have the daughter is now being worked on. But mostly this is just a vehicle for creepy Vision philosophy, I think, is what we're getting mostly here.
As was, I would say, the first one. I mean, given there was a bit of world building and such, but the creepy Vision philosophy kind of is the world that they inhabit.
Mm-hmm. And I think really what we get more than that, probably to be more specific, is we're starting to see now the philosophies of the other characters. We're getting, his name is Vin, right? The son. Mm-hmm. And Virginia, the wife. We're getting a little bit more of their perspective on things. And neither of them are quite as well adjusted as Vision.
No, I mean, given he's had some time to sort of figure out humanity and whatnot, but he made them from scratch. I don't think that long ago, timeline-wise. So you know, they're pretty new to the game, and yeah, it definitely shows in some unsettling kind of ways.
Yeah, it's pretty cool so far.
The off button of the human being is kind of
And we do kind of, you get the feeling that they're doing their best, but we get this cool play on the small, like the white lie that causes a big problem. We see that in the form here ramped up, where the white lie is that she killed the guy and buried him in the backyard. But right. in this world, that is kind of a white lie. Like she doesn't think it's that big of a deal. It'd be better just to lie about it than to tell him the truth. But it's weird seeing these synthetic robot personalities working their way through lies in a context that we're used to seeing. This is a story we're familiar with. We've seen this story told many different ways, but never this way.
It's almost like a computer trying to understand a sitcom.
Yeah.
You know, like all the elements are there. Like, oh, the kids are getting in trouble at school, and the wife, told a little lie to the husband. But in reality, like, there was near murder in one case and actual murder in the other case.
Right, right. It's really dark.
They don't know how to differentiate that from, they lost a cat and they're trying to go find another cat that looks like it and just replace it, so nobody knows.
Yeah. And it's also, there's a lot of really dark foreshadowing here about, the world is going to fall apart because of what they're doing here. Like, it's right in your face that this is going to get really bad. Yeah.
There's obviously a setup, especially in the scene with the principal, and he's kind of wondering if his actions had been a little bit different, if the future would have been different. So we're assuming that the future is going to be quite horrible, and it's going to be because of them. Right.
I loved that scene, by the way, the whole principal scene with the Vision just really coming out strong, like... I fucking saved your life like 32 times, motherfucker. Yeah. You're going to keep my kid in school. It's pretty awesome. Really just, I love King's, I hate to do this, but I love his vision here.
Yeah.
I think it's really spot on. Great comic. I'm loving it.
For sure.
Anything about the art we want to talk about here?
Same as last time.
Yeah, it's
good, a little bit different.
Marvel House style, but just a little off kilter, a little more matte finish, a little more sketchy, but not a ton, just enough to make it feel a little weird.
It's the way Vision would want it, I think, is the best assessment that we came up with.
Yeah. You want to keep introducing these?
Mm-hmm.
No? All right.
Fuck that, dude.
The Sheriff of Babylon, #1. This is also Tom King, the writer of The Vision. This is also Garrett's is doing the art here. The interesting thing here to mention is that King is a CIA guy. He has a CIA background, and it reads pretty obvious that he has some experience in the subject matter we're talking about here.
Sure.
So this is what feels like a bit of a mystery story, but set in Baghdad, 2004, post 9/11. And it's just grim and dark as hell, isn't it?
Just a ton of people die.
Yeah, just murdering everywhere and just brains on the ground. And it's very in your face with the death and the killing and the weight of death and murder.
And also deceit. There's a pretty obvious deceit theme in here. Did you feel a little bit confused at times as to what was actually happening?
A little bit.
A little bit. Me too.
I felt like maybe that was the idea. I don't think it's supposed to be completely clear what's going on. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to see, I think, that there's a web of people interacting here, but I don't think we're supposed to know who exactly is turning which screws yet. Just that it's all interconnected and there's a couple people behind it all.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I missed something or what the deal was, but yeah, there's lots of murder scenes that just seem to like have absolutely no context whatsoever, mm-hmm. and then you'll get little bits later that seem related to it, but nothing necessarily concrete.
It all kind of halfway comes together at the end. We see a little bit of how it's all tied together because these different characters that are involved with these grisly murders in one form or another are then at the end all contacted and stuck talking to each other about this problem. And you can see how disparate their positions are, but because of the situation, they're all now going to have to interact and move things around and work together in one form or another. Mm-hmm. So what was your overall take of this? First of all, can we talk about the fact that it's a Vertigo title, and it's been quite a while since I've read anything from Vertigo, and this is pretty cool.
The last one I read was The Kitchen, which is, I think, an 8-issue miniseries, and it was pretty good. I can't remember who wrote it. But yeah, I haven't been overly interested in a lot of stuff that they've been doing lately. But yeah, this was pretty good. I liked it.
I did too.
The artwork strikes me as more, it's almost Image House style.
Yeah, it feels a lot like
I
Image.
think it's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. Coloring work I thought was really interesting. A lot of repeated palettes, you know, but they always seem appropriate.
Yeah, I think the coloring is done pretty cleverly. He uses specific palettes per panel to keep us clear on where we're at, because we're doing a lot of moving between different places. Yeah. And so he picks a very distinct color palette for different locations. So you know right away, okay, this is like an orange color, so this is outside at this scene. This is a dark blue, so this is with Fatima or whatever her name is.
And even, with different people speaking, it changes quite a bit.
Yeah. It really helps keep things a little clearer. But yeah, there's a lot of mystery here. I liked it quite a bit. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it could possibly be a decent replacement for us for the Fade Out. As that ends, I feel like this could be
fades out.
Because that's only got one more, and this feels like a mystery with kind of a similar vibe to it in that it's pretty grim and it
seems like a lot more death.
Well, certainly. But I just mean that it's very much a noir character drama, so this might be a good replacement in my mind for the Fade Out, at least for the short term.
Sure. And I do want to mention our protagonist here. What did you think of him?
I liked this character, actually.
I did quite a bit. There's a scene fairly early in here, so it's not really a spoiler, but where there's a suicide bomber, and he just goes in and starts to have a conversation with him, and they end up killing him, and he's super pissed off about it. He's like, she was fine, we were just talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems pretty cool. He reminds me of he's almost a G.I. Joe caricature, you know, just a real American hero looking dude.
See, I get more of the Bloodshot vibe. Like,
but
he's crazy, like obviously crazy, but he means really well.
Yeah, sure. I can see that as well. He's easy to put, I think, your own feelings onto so far because he hasn't been well defined, but
sure.
The way I think the art is really a big part of this character so far. And probably in the characterizations in general, I think we get a lot of really good artistic characterization in this book. All right, then let's jump to our next Marvel title. We've got 3 this week. This is a 6-book week, so we're pretty full up here. This is Doctor Strange. It's Aaron Bacallo and Townsend. This is issue number 3.
So there's these slugs that come from another dimension, and they eat magic, and that's kind of a bad deal for him. So he deals with that.
Right. This is one of those stories where we jump right into the middle of something that's going on, and it's a setup where the character's in the same situation. He doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't know how it began. And we get this absurd setup where he's running naked through Central Park, right? And we're just as in the dark, or probably the other way around. He's just as in the dark as we are as to what's going on. But ultimately for me, I don't feel like we got too much advancement of what this is about until the end. A lot of this almost feels like a one-shot.
I thought it was going to be a one-shot, honestly. I didn't think it was going to have really anything to do with anything else that we had read so far. But yeah, it does kind of come together at the end. Mm-hmm. I could see that happening a lot with the series just because of the nature of it. Because everything about it is so absurd that you just kind of have to assume that there's a link somewhere.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where it can kind of Deus Ex Machina, where everything connects or this matters just because they say so.
Yeah, sure.
You know, this mattered because we wrote it to matter, and that's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
Because it's not really the focus. The focus so far has mostly just been trying to get us acclimated to this new version of Doctor Strange, who's a little looser, he's younger, he's having a lot more fun. You know, the old Doctor...
Like him.
Yeah, I do too. The old Doctor Strange was... it was all kind of old hat to him, and we still get that with this guy, but he also seems to enjoy it more, whereas the old Doctor Strange was an older guy. He'd been through more, and he seemed more worn out, travel weary.
Sure. And I also think this Doctor Strange doesn't necessarily have, well, it's kind of already been said, but things figured out as much, like in the first issue when they were talking about killing rabbits to make up for whatever, and he's like, yeah, I don't do that,
Right.
Fucking whatever.
It's not going so well now.
Yeah, which is probably going to be a big thing that comes up later. I'm sure it is.
Right. And we do get, this affords Aaron the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about how Doctor Strange magic works. He talks about channeling the magic around him,
right,
and tells us more about the world and how magic exists. It's mostly just a setup, I think, to tell us more about the larger world and how magic is going to operate in this version of the Marvel Universe, which it was up in the air until now. Like, who knows how this all works?
Sure.
So there's no real conflict here. I mean, there are. These leech things are technically a conflict. They're technically the antagonist of this issue, but...
Well, we get one at the end. But
right.
Until then, in the real meat and potatoes of this, there's no...
Right. The story arc for this issue, aside from the bit that leads us into the next, or the larger big bad of this series, for most of this issue, you almost could just skip to the last few pages and read it, and you'd be fine. But that's not necessarily saying this is a bad issue. It's just...
No, I think you would miss a lot by doing that, actually.
Right.
I mean, Aaron did do a good job. Even though it doesn't really go anywhere, it was very enjoyable to read, I think,
I agree.
Front to back.
I agree. And the art was also really cool.
Oh, it's art of the week, easily.
A lot of fun.
If not of the month so far. It's just, even the first few pages are just so breathtakingly awesome.
Yeah, I love this thing that they're doing with the spirit world where they're using black and white for everything that's the real world or the physical plane or material world, whatever they're calling it here. And then everything that's spirit world is, you know, bright and colorful and just a rainbow of colors. Almost, I hate fairyland.
Yeah, I think there is a rainbow actually in the first couple of pages.
Right, yeah. They're being very literal with it. And I love that effect. I think it works really well, and it helps pull you into this where you really have to pay attention to see the non-spirit world stuff that's happening when he's in the spirit world. Like, you have to look and really try to eyeball and understand what's going on.
Right.
You see things more from the perspective that he understands the world, which is all the spirit stuff going on. So I think that was a good call.
Yeah, definitely. Not to mention it just helps draw the distinction between real world and spirit world stuff. Because I mean, if they had it all just kind of drawn together, it'd make it seem like everybody around was aware of all this mess happening, but in reality, like, he's the only one that's seeing all this crazy shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also makes it easy visually to tell when you're in the spirit world and when you're not. What do you think of the third eye thing that he has going on? Is that cool? I kind of take it or leave it.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, sure. I'm with you. All right, well, moving right along, because, like I said, we got a lot of titles this week. Let's talk about our only DC title for the week. This is Prez #6, Russell, Caldwell, Morales, and Lawson.
So the cat flu epidemic is rampant, and companies are trying to copyright the DNA code. And yeah.
And we also get a lot with War Beast.
Tina
now. Yeah, my apologies, War Beast. I know you prefer it. God,
you fucking did it again.
I'm so bad at this.
God.
There's a lot to like in this issue.
It really is.
There's a lot of funny stuff, a lot of good satire.
Yeah. A lot of it is extremely relevant as well, because, I mean, corporations have, at this point in history, copyrighted or patented, rather, living organisms, which is just absolutely absurd.
Right.
And I love the resolution that they came to in order for her to sort of get her way.
Yeah, it was very clever, which I don't think we want to spoil. But yeah,
it's too good.
It was pretty good. I didn't see it coming, but I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. The War Beast thing, her Tina thing, is really coming to fruition here. First of all, I love Tina's hair.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh. Every panel, when I see the hair, I laugh.
This big ass robot, and it's got like a blonde wig with Betty bangs.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And I feel like Tina herself is a good satire of a lot of comics, a lot of what we see in kind of postmodern comic book storytelling. One book that we're reading that I think this is a good satire of is Bloodshot Reborn.
In what way?
Well, we have this character that at one time was a mindless killing machine, who's now decided, you know, I don't want to be that anymore. I'm going to be my own person and, you know, repent. And we get that a lot. It's not just that, but that was right at the top of my head when reading this. But we get that a lot.
Batman's kind of doing the same thing right now.
Yeah, and we get it a lot. Yeah. It's a pretty common thing, you know, a bad guy turned good guy.
And then you pulled in for that one last job.
Right. You know? So we're getting kind of the same thing here, but just on a goofy satire where Tina is now getting pulled into, you know, doing the old work she did before, but, you know, as her own person instead of, you know, being controlled by the machine, which I'm sure is going to be stupid and funny. But yeah, so we also have the thing with the cat flu.
One more note about Tina. I really liked the whole bit about AI when she's saying that, well, artificial intelligence has been around for forever. You know, it's when machines get emotion that you have to worry about it. Because,
artificial emotion.
Right, because that's when they can decide, well, okay, fuck my programming. I don't really feel okay about this.
Right.
Yeah, the lady's like, so we should be afraid? Like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. Aside from that, though, yeah, we get the cat flu thing. They send all the cats to Arizona, which I know is a spoiler or whatever, but who cares? It's not a huge deal. It doesn't matter.
Which is funny, seen it coming.
You know, because it's a huge sandbox, so it's like
it's perfect.
Giant litter box. So take that, Southwest. You're just a giant litter box for cats.
Yeah, just waiting for a cat to shit in.
So we get some goofy stuff there, but like you said, it's really it's a vehicle for these larger themes about, you know, patenting and where we're going with that sort of stuff. I will say I loved the Madam President line. I think that was the highlight for me. Mr. Smiley, he calls her Madam President.
Oh, yeah,
and she says a madam is somebody who runs a whorehouse.
And he's like, yeah.
He says exactly.
Yeah. I like how the rich benefactor is Mr. Wayne.
Yeah.
And he's a fat... I mean, he looks like the Big Lebowski, pretty much. Yeah.
And he does vaguely look like maybe he could be...
A Wayne?
A Wayne. Yeah, he's got the hair and
the bad DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we still got 2 titles left. Next on the list, we're going to go back to Marvel for our 3rd Marvel book this week. This is Daredevil #1 by Sol Garni and Milk. Is it really Milk? No, it's not. It's Mila. But, you know, an L and a K together when you are left-handed looks kind of like milk. So this was the random Marvel all new, all different title that we picked up this week that isn't normally on our pull list. We just grabbed it because that's what we've been doing.
So we get a new villain, this Ten Fingers guy who apparently runs a cult, and they're after somebody that Daredevil decides to save, who then becomes an informant.
Right. So we get a couple of pretty major changes to the status quo here. One, I would argue, being that Matt Murdock is now a prosecutor rather than a defense attorney.
That's huge.
That's a huge change. That completely, I think, is going to change the tone of the book, and it already has.
Yeah. Seems a lot more aggressive in Matt Murdock form.
Yeah, I like the fact that he knows that he's a prosecutor, and he goes for it in this issue. Like, we really get some Matt Murdock as a prosecutor being a dickbag prosecutor, because that's, I mean, you know,
that's what you do.
You're prosecuting shitty criminals. Like, that's what you got to do. But we also have this sidekick now. What was his name? Blind Spot? Blind Spot.
Yeah, Blind Spot.
What'd you think of Blind Spot?
I don't think there's really enough to tell about Blind Spot yet. I mean, we know he can be invisible, and that takes batteries, you know, but...
Okay, I like training. First of all, I like the premise of the character and his power and how it relates to Matt Murdock and Daredevil, because obviously invisibility means nothing to Daredevil, which is a funny thought. Like, I hope that they go back and show some flashbacks of how they met, where he's just like, "Who are you?" and the guy thinks he's being sneaky and he's not, because you can just see him. I really hope we get that, which I'm thinking is probably where this comes from, right?
Sure.
But beyond that, I just like the idea of kind of a young Robin-esque kind of character for Daredevil. It's a neat idea.
Definitely. I mean, he is the Marvel Batman, so to speak, so it's about damn time he got himself a Robin, a young boy to train and...
Right, and we kind of get that Robin vibe here, too, where he's a little more lighthearted. He's clearly having fun with being Daredevil's sidekick.
He's totally into the whole idea, like, you know, still a little bit starstruck that he's in the presence of Daredevil.
Right.
All right, now go train. Okay.
Yeah. So that's cool. I think that'll make for a cool dynamic and give us a lot of neat new Daredevil stuff. What'd you think of the writing in general? Because this Soul guy is somebody I'm not familiar with.
Right. I thought it was fairly comparable to the Wade. Honestly, the way that he depicts sensory things, like there was a spot when he was in the river and he was sort of talking about the history of the river and then like his involvement and his current predicament and stuff, and then, you know, another person later smelling like oranges and wearing heels that nobody would wear willingly. It all felt very Wade Daredevil to me. Definitely this depiction of him is a little bit, again, more aggressive. He seems like he's really coming into that prosecutor role. But overall, very Wade. I would say if you were a fan of the Wade, you'd be a fan of this. I
think so, too. I liked it quite a bit. I liked the dialogue and how it played. It has a good rhythm to it. And then on the other side of things, I thought the art was really cool.
Oh, yeah. It was fantastic. A very minimalist approach to the coloring, which I thought was very cool. Some things are all black and white, except for one thing will be colored in, or a lot of times, you know, everything will just be like a light shade of red, and then, you know, you just have the black line work and stuff. But I think it really fits. I mean, again, the fact that he can't see anything, I think you really have more freedom with those simpler color palettes.
I agree. I think there was a lot of cool paneling.
That too.
There's a lot of interesting usage of panel inserts and that sort of thing. But yeah, the art style itself reminds me a lot of like the old The Man Without Fear runs, some of the really quintessential Daredevil stuff. I feel like we're hearkening back to that style where it's a little sketchier, like you said, it's a little less filled in, a little more impressionistic. Pretty cool.
Is that the style that you were hoping that the later Wade Daredevil would go back to? Because I mentioned there was a run that you said it was almost like, but it never quite got there.
Right, yeah, I felt like that whole Wade Daredevil run from start to finish, both volumes, was slowly making a transition from this very bright... it was kind of like you just wake up in issue number 1, all of a sudden he's like, screw it, I'm happy, everything was clean and bright and fun, and it slowly digressed over the course of like 30 issues into what we're back to now, which is more of the quintessential Daredevil style, that more Frank Miller, just sketchy and kind of dark and grim looking stuff.
Sure.
So
yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so last up, we're going to talk about Brian K. Vaughan's Paper Girls number 3. This has art by Cliff Chang and Matt Wilson. What do we got here?
Some weird shit. So there's, I guess, some aliens fighting some other aliens, and some of them speak Chinese. I don't really want to give away the reveal at the ending, but I feel like it's going to be a major plot point of the next issue.
Yeah, we definitely get a pretty cool reveal twist kind of thing in here that starts to pull back these curtains a little bit and tell us a little touch more about what's going on. Not a lot. But we're definitely getting a lot of hints about things that are going on for the larger story structure here. And I don't think these are aliens. I think this is all about time travel.
Could be. I would like to note that Brian K. Vaughan's becoming a real dick about putting other languages in comics that we can't fucking understand. I feel like maybe We Stand on Guard was kind of like a warm-up of that concept for him, because now he's doing something that doesn't even like remotely...
Right, well, and this isn't even Chinese. This is...
What is it?
My understanding is that this is just a made-up language.
Oh, okay.
That's supposed to be just not of now or not of Earth or whatever it ends up being.
Some sort of strange...
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, again, if you have a comic book in France and it's in French, that's cool. But, damn it, I want to know, like, what the fuck they're saying.
Right.
You know?
Interestingly enough, this stuff has been translated, so if you really want to know what it is, it's not hard to find. You can go on the internet and type in Paper Girls translation or whatever, and you can see what it is they're saying. You can even go on Reddit and like the comic books Reddit, like every month when this comes out, like 8 a.m. that morning, somebody has all the translations up, so you can see what the fuck they're saying if you really want to. But okay, so we also have the thing with the gun and the injury that we get here, and that's kind of the central conflict of this issue. How'd you feel about that?
It was a big surprise. It was the last person I saw getting injured. I mean, just because of the angle of the shot and everything. And...
Yeah, and it was really well delivered too. Like I really liked that sequence. Where it's like, oh man, we really lucked out there.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
And you see it spreading. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Oh, and then the fact that they took the car and, they were driving and they're 12, but she's like, I don't know, I'm just driving the way that my mom drives to work, which at the beginning I thought she was going to have like no connection to the hospital whatsoever. Like, I don't know, this is just the way that I know to drive.
Right, yeah.
It turned out that her mom did work at a hospital. She was a doctor, whatnot, but I thought it was clever.
Right, yeah, and there was also a clever little dig there just about stereotypes and perception where the friend says, oh, is she a nurse?
Oh, yeah.
No, she's a doctor.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a clever little move, especially because this is supposed to be in the 80s.
Which at that time,
Right. We also get, and she was black and a woman.
Sure.
So it's like double, like, holy shit, she's a doctor kind of thing.
Mm.
We also get this weird dream sequency thing in the middle with, I think it was Ronald Reagan. I'm
Was it
pretty sure
Reagan?
that's supposed to be Reagan.
Yeah, it looked like Reagan.
He makes the point about, you know, we can survive gunshots, and he was shot while he was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume it must be Reagan.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that section?
It was kind of bizarre, but it was interesting.
Yeah, it was fun.
He told her she didn't have any friends. That was kind of a dick move.
Yeah,
he was really kind of a dick to her. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing I think we should talk about is this new paradigm that we're getting, where we won't spoil like this bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't see it, but
this one.
you can see it. So we won't spoil this thing, but what about this dude? Should we talk about him a little bit and like kind of what that implies, or should we just call it?
What do you think?
Well, I think we might as well.
Well, about him.
Okay, about him, I like this idea. I like the way he speaks. I think that's interesting, first of all, because we can kind of halfway understand what he's saying, so that's nice. Yeah. But yeah, I like that we're getting a second group for conflict, right? So it's not just the paper girls
and
versus the world.
Yeah.
It's like the paper girls are stuck in the middle of this larger conflict that's happening around them, which I think is a lot more interesting than the Goonies route of them versus these ninja people. Like, it's no longer that. It's more of a Brian K. Vaughan epic where things are more or less out of their control, and they're just along for the ride.
Yeah, definitely some Wild Last Man vibe in there.
Right.
Though I guess, well, I don't know. They could be the solution to the problem. We don't know yet.
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely true, but it just feels less like they're the central narrative of the larger story now. Mm-hmm. They still could end up being, you know, the linchpin of the whole thing, but it no longer feels like we're following them to go solve a problem. We're now on an adventure with them, which I like a lot better for this book.
Yeah, for sure. I think that point definitely plays to like the naivety of all of them too, because obviously there's some very adult problem happening, and you know, we only interpret it as they interpret it, which is probably far from what's actually happening.
Right.
But that's the fun of it.
That is the fun of it. Yeah, that's what makes it work, I think. If these were adults that were in the middle of this, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting, I don't think. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us this week. You can check back with us on Monday when we're going to have our TV tie-in episode for Alias. Mm-hmm. Or,
Jessica Jones.
As it's better known, Jessica Jones, the Netflix series. We'll talk about the first trade on that, issues 1 through 9, maybe a couple more, who knows. Other than that, every Wednesday we do this, so you can check back for that. Go ahead and comment down below on what you think of the titles we read this week. And if there's anything else you think we should be reading, we're getting near the end of all these Marvel #1 titles. Is there anything we missed that, based on what we've said so far, we should be reading? If there is, please tell us.